Okay, so in this lesson in Avid Media Composer, I figured we would finally get a chance to talk about exporting what we've created here inside of the timeline out to a file or to some other source. I can't believe that all this time we've been talking about editing and all these things and we haven't talked about exporting. I mean, I feel like if you've been playing along and doing your own edits on your timeline, you're sitting home wondering, how do I get this out of here? Well, maybe not. You probably figured out you could just go to File and Export, and File Output and Export to File, and that would work perfectly fine. I mean, that's probably the easiest way to do it. So, man, lesson over. Just File, Output, Export to File. No, let's for real. Let's talk about what we're doing here. So we're going to clean this timeline, and I want to give you my bits of advice for how to export and some ideas about exporting and some other cool things we can do with the whole export functionality. So my advice is across the board, go to the beginning of your timeline. So you can just hit the home key, go to the beginning of your timeline, hit the I key, mark an endpoint, and then you're going to go to the end of your timeline. We'll make sure we're zoomed out full. End of your timeline and hit the out point, O key, out point, and highlight everything. The other trick we're going to do is we're going to go here and we're going to turn on all of our tracks. Now, if you ever wanted to know, I don't know if I ever talked about this before, but there's a little trick. I don't know where I learned this, but there's a trick here that if you hold down Shift, you can drag across and highlight everything. Or just deselect stuff. It's a really quick way to edit. I saw somebody do this one time and I was like, how did you do that so fast? Just hold down Shift and you can just grab and do all that. Man, that's kind of cool. Anyway, so we have this timeline. Again, for everything that I ever export, and even if I export out of Premiere or I use any other software, I often put an in point at the beginning, put an out point at the end, and highlight everything. Do you need to do this? No, you absolutely do not need to do this. Should you? Yeah, make it part of your habit, make it part of your life, get used to it. Now we're gonna go here to File, Output to File, and Export to File. Another quick trick, just in case we're looking, if I am clicked on a source clip here, and I go to File, Output to File, Export, be really careful because here you'll see that this is going to output this clip 2701, which is not what I want to output. This is context sensitive, so I do want to be clicked on the timeline, either in the bin or here, and make sure that I'm clicked on this when I do Output to File. So always check what it's called. This is called main sequence min-mal. We're going to export to file, and it's going to say main sequence min-mal. And then it just says, hey, where do you want to save this to? Except that it really is kind of obtuse there. It doesn't tell you a lot of information there. It doesn't give you a lot of controls there. And what you want to do here is say, hey, yeah, I'm going to export this to the desktop. Sure, that works like a charm. But here, what I really want to do is I want to choose options. And here in options, it brings up all of our export controls. And there's several different ways we can export out of Avid. And so we're going to look at several of these here. There's something called an AAF and a ProTools session. We'll talk about these in a second, but let's just start really simply. We'll start with something we know, something we're really familiar with here. We can export as a QuickTime MOV. They have this option here called MOV. In older versions of Avid, they used to have one here that said QuickTime, and then up here it was like QuickTime, and down here it said MOV, and it was a little confusing, but now they've gotten rid of the QuickTime MOV, which was kind of an older way of doing it, and just chose MOV as the option. So we're going to go to MOV, and we're going to export an MOV. And it kind of changes your window around and shows you some information it's going to provide for you. So they're going to ask you some questions here. So here it's going to say, hey, do you want to work in the source raster, which is the project raster, which is 1920 by 1080? Sure, we want to do that. There is a control in here called mask margins. I can show you those really quickly. If you ever want to put false masks on something, we'll just hit cancel out of this and we'll go to settings, Command Shift equal. There is something in here in user settings called mask margins. It might be in format. There's something called mask margins where you can make margins around there and force some kind of a margin around your video if you had some kind of weird resolution that you wanted it to be 1920 by 1080, but you want to force bars above it or around it. You could reduce the size of this there. We don't want to do that, but that is a thing you have. So we'll go back here to File, Output, Export to File. There really should be a shortcut. I guess I could map a shortcut if I really wanted to, but we'll just leave it at Export to File. I'll go back in here to Options. We'll look at this. We'll export a QuickTime MOV. Okay, we're back. Here, QuickTime MOV. So we're not doing mask margins. We're not cropping to mask margins. We're not enabling mask margins. I don't need mask margins. Forget about them. I'm not going to say the word mask margins again. Oops. Okay, so the image, we have some presets here. We are working in HD 1920 by 1080, so we could put it to HD 1920 by 1080, but we're going to leave it at custom. I guess custom is fine because it's going to do 1920 by 1080 anyway. Even if we're here custom, it says right here 1920 by 1080, so that's fine. But we'll just leave it at 1920 by 1080. Aspect ratio 6:9. The pixel aspect ratio, we're working with square pixels. and the source scaling is center crop. We don't have any source scaling, so we're not stretching this. We're not doing pillar box. We're not doing center crop. We talked about this when we talked about working with camera settings and how we can do some of those things. But for this, this doesn't really matter because our source is 1920 by 1080 and our output video is 1920 by 1080. Our project rate is 23.976 and our output frame rate is 23.976. This is where you could do some frame rate conversion if you really, really wanted to, but I don't think we really need to. If you know anything about color spaces, Rec 709 is pretty common, ITU 709, whatever those codes are. And then they have Rec 709 and Rec 2020 if you're working in 4K, working with something else, and they have all these DCI, but we're going to work with Rec 709, which is pretty standard. And then it says video labels, keep as legal range, scale from legal range to full range. I think we're going to just keep it at legal range and say, cool, excellent. This is where it gets really interesting here. So in here in the video format, it asks about the codec family. I really like the way they do this. So there's a couple different families of codecs. So if you know what a compressor is a QuickTime movie is just a thing, right? It's just a thing. It's built as a thing. Inside of the QuickTime movie is different recipes for how to make different things. So there's something called ABC Intra, which I think is made by Panasonic. I think the ABC group is there. You can make it by Panasonic. There's something called the ABC Long GOP, which is long group of pictures. Apple ProRes, you might have heard of Apple ProRes before. Apple ProRes is really common. So in the Apple ProRes family, you have different graded qualities of Apple ProRes. You have Apple ProRes 422, which is pretty standard. Then you also have Apple ProRes 422 Lite and 422 High Quality. And then 4444. 4 in every single channel. If you really want to know about Apple ProRes and you want to know about different codecs, there's a great article from Frame.io by David Kong. Maybe I'll share it in the link here on YouTube if I put it there. And so there's different kind of qualities there. We're going to work with standard Apple ProRes 422 in there. You'll see there's other versions. DNX HD and DNX HR are two that come straight from Avid. So if you were, say, for example, you're going to export this to bring it into, say, Pro Tools, I might go with the DNX because I know that Pro Tools will support the DNX codecs, and those are pretty much ingrained because they're both owned by Avid, and so they would work perfectly fine with there. So we could do that if we wanted to, but for this example, we're going to use there. You'll see the H.264 and the H.265 and something called MJPEG, different codecs. You can research about all kinds of different codecs if you want to. So in the Apple ProRes family, we're going to go to Apple ProRes 422. Now we can go to 8-bit, 10-bit, or 12-bit. This footage was all shot in 8 bits per channel, which is 8 bits of red, 8 bits of green, 8 bits of blue. So it's 8-bit per channel in Rec 709. Nothing in here is 10-bit, so nothing's really in any kind of increased color depth. I didn't shoot this with like a red camera or anything else like that. So 8-bit should be fine for me. Let's just save the energy. And so we're shooting at all of this thing here. The audio format is going to ask me some questions about what format we're going to work in. We're going to work in PCM, which is pulse code modulation. AAC is a lossy format that is a little bit compressed, but we're going to work in. You'll see the changes. Some changes will occur there, but we're going to work in here. This is kind of a reduced bitrate quality here in the audio controls. So you see if we use AAC. You just know what AA stands for, but we're going to stick with PCM, which is pretty much standard for QuickTime. And we're going to say the mix is going to be a stereo mix. We're going to make this a stereo mix here and have this as a stereo mix accordingly. We're working in 48 kilohertz. I think this audio was encoded in 16-bit. It's not in 24-bit, so why try to export in 24-bit? We're not going to get anything more out of it. So, man, this is some nerdy stuff. I'm sorry, but we're going to get into it. We're getting into the nerdiness. I think that's what, you guys pay for. I don't know if you're paying for this, but I guess you're not really at this point, but we'll see there. Now we could save this as a template here. So as save as template, we're going to call this MOV ProRes, or we'll call this ProRes 422. So we're going to call this ProRes 422, and I'm going to know that it's QuickTime MOV. So we're going to call this ProRes 422. These are the settings here, the export settings. This ProRes 422. We're going to say okay. And then it says now the export settings are ProRes 422, which means in the future, if I ever want to, I can go and save this and just have all these settings exactly the way I want to before. Before we were on untitled, but now we have here as ProRes 422, and we have those settings right there. ProRes 422 set up like there. We're going to say okay and save this. And we're going to say save to the desktop. We're going to hit save, and it's going to save this to the desktop there. Let's make a folder. Just for amusement, we'll make a folder. We'll call this export from Avid. And we'll save this here, create this new folder. So this is on the desktop, save this here, and this will save with all these settings here. It'll run through. You can hit Command period Remember that cancel button, command, always confused me. Command plus period, command period. Command plus, is the period there, is it necessary? Yeah, we're gonna keep it. Command period will cancel it, but now we have this. If we go here to the desktop, we can navigate to the desktop, we can navigate to this folder called export from Avid, and inside of here we have this main sequence min-mail. This was a minute and 10 seconds long, and it ended up being about a gig. So QuickTime MOVs are kind of bigger files. They'll make them bigger files, usually a little bit higher quality. And we have this main sequence here. We can double click and open this up. We can see this open up. This is this minute and 10 seconds here. Shows me the time code. I can switch between frames and time code. And a little trick to learn. This is the average runtime. So this is the video here. Looks pretty good. Looks pretty much as good as the quality of the video that was originally shot. So I'm pretty okay with that as well. Now, again, if we wanted to, we could look at some of these other settings. So really quickly, if you go to Command-Shift equal your Avid Media Composer preferences now, it used to be called settings, but now it's called preferences, or either file settings, same thing, Command-Shift equal. We can look at the user settings, and there's several different export settings that are available, and this is how you can look in the different export settings. I actually have a setting here that I made by accident called ProRes 322 from a previous lesson I did. This is kind of garbage. So let's delete that and get rid of that. Let's stick with ProRes 422. And I also have an export setting here called YouTube. So this is if I wanted to upload this to YouTube. So in here, what I can do is I can say inside of here, okay, so it's going to export in here. Let's just take a look at this. Export to YouTube. I don't think this is what I want to do because this says export as a Pro Tools session. So let's not do it this way. Let's go in here. Let's delete this. Let's do this over. So in here, we're going to say, let's go, and we can actually make a new setting in here. I'll show you a trick. Command-Shift equal, we're going to make a new setting. We're going to take this export setting. We're going to duplicate it. So we're going to duplicate it, and we're going to call this one YouTube. For the web. And so here, for the web, we're going to have this export setting. We're going to open this up, and we're going to export as not a QuickTime MOV. Well, maybe we'll go to an MP4. The internet really likes MP4s. They're really reduced quality, but they are... they're a little bit lossy, but they are really small and they really look pretty good in MP4s. So the MP4 quality here, we're going to say MP4. It's going to ask the same questions. I want you to notice something that we didn't notice or something I didn't mention before is up here, it says use marks and use selected tracks. Include inactive audio tracks. So if I turn an audio track off, it is there. If this use selected tracks is checked, which it was here in the ProRes 422 one, in here, it says use selected track. This is checked, which means if I didn't have video 2 and A3 checked or selected, those tracks aren't going to be exported. So my music here, all the music that I had on the lower level here, that's not going to export. Anything else here is not going to, the overlays or titles or whatever else was going on here, it's not going to export if the tracks aren't on. Also in here, it says use marks. Man, I can't tell you the number of times that I had somebody who had an in and out point here and here, you know, marked over this amount of space. This is what, 10 seconds of space. That's almost 10 seconds in one frame. That's really close. Almost got exactly 10 seconds just by guess. And if this is checked, use marks, it's only going to export this 10 seconds. Here's the thing. A lot of people don't notice these things and they forget about them. They just assume they're checked from the way they are. I teach at a college, and I've had college students who've handed me their final project, and their final project is 10 seconds of color bars at the beginning of the project, because that was the last thing they did, and they marked an in and out point at the beginning to put in color bars. Man, don't do that to yourself. So I just make it a habit, just my own person, to go to the beginning, home I and O, just mark everything, turn all the tracks on. That way, even this, the for the web version, comes out, whatever's here. If these things are checked, cool, it's going to export everything. If these things aren't checked, cool, it's going to export everything. Either way, I've kind of negated these by saying, hey, don't worry about whether marks there, because the marks are on the whole thing. Don't worry about which tracks are selected, because all the tracks are selected. It's going to export everything. So for the web, we're going to choose to export as an MP4. As I said before, we're going to choose the MP4 settings, and here's the MP4 settings. It asks about the video quality, the image quality, the frame rate, all this is the same. The color space, all this is there. The compression family, my advice is they offer you some different compression families. Some of the similar before. You saw the ABC intro, the ABC long GOP, the DNX ones for Avid. But really, honestly, for the internet right now, I know YouTube, I know Vimeo, I know a bunch of other websites are using H.264. So when you load something onto Vimeo or you load something on YouTube and it says, hey, wait a second while we convert this, they're going to convert to H.264. So if you're going to give them H.264 in the first place, guess what? It converts faster. And so you can look up the YouTube settings of conversion and what they're working with. If you do a Google search, you could look up something in here and say YouTube settings compression. Here we go. And it would say YouTube recommended uploading encoding settings. Here they go. Google help container MP4 audio codec AAC, video codec H.264, frame rate. It works with all these frame rates. And then here bit rate. It works with different bit rates. So it says if we're working in 1080, video bit rate for high frame rate, we're working in, it says 8 megabytes per second. That's all it says. That's pretty easy. So we can do this as 8 megabytes per second. That's pretty low. That's kind of a low rate. Right now, we're at H.264. We're at color depth 8-bit. It says encoding is a constant bit rate. So it offers us constant bit rate or variable bit rate single pass. Some systems will offer us variable bit rate at different passes here. We'll do variable bit rate single pass. We'll say the target bit rate is only 8 megabytes per second. So if it says, hey, if I can do this in 8 megabytes per second, I'll do this in 8 megabytes per second. So it's going to look at this, it's going to look through this video and see, okay, the parts that are black, like just the black screen here at the beginning, I don't need to worry about the quality of the black screen. So I'll maybe do it at a lower megabytes per second. Great. The maximum bit rate here is a 20. So it says, hey, if something's really complicated, if there's a lot of detail, a lot of information, and I can't compress this really well there, maybe I'll even just put this at like 12. I don't know. Maybe I'll just be arrogant here. Do I need to put it at 12? No, but I'm just going to be a little bit overconfident there. I got plenty of space in my hard drive, so there. Now, the audio format, if you remember, we just read it, and I didn't know. We just read it. The format is AAC. So now we're at AAC there. And the audio is here, 320 kilobytes per second. I don't know if the internet said anything about the bit rate there, but we'll worry about that at some other time. For now, we're going to go here, AAC, stereo, 48 kilohertz is great sample rate. The bit rate, constant bit rate, 320. We could go to lower, probably 192, but 320 should be fine. And we're going to say, okay, so now we've set this export setting for the web to export at this rate here. And so there. And now when we go to file export, output, export a file. Oh, export a file is grayed out. Why is that? Well, that's because I'm on the settings and it won't export anything from the settings. I need to be clicked on the timeline. And now that I'm clicked on the timeline, you see that this is not grayed out. Oh, there's export to file. You feel better? I feel better. I hope you feel better. And now we can go to ProTools 422, but we can go to for the web. Now, if you go here, and here's the thing to be careful of, if you go in here and you start changing stuff, you're going to change this and you're going to save this, and it's going to save these settings with the new settings. So just make sure that if you have this export setting perfectly set up, don't change it, leave it alone. Everything will be wonderful, amazing, cool. We're going to hit save and say save, boom. And we're going to export this out. This may take a little bit longer, and this may be a little bit slower of an export. Why? Because it's doing more compression. It's actually doing a lot more compression. Like I said before, if you look online and you look for David Kong, it was David Kong Frame.io codec compressor decompressor. There's an article there, how to choose the right codec for every project. It's from the Frame.io blog. Man, it's a really great article. It tells you a lot of information about different codecs you can use and what codecs are better for what purposes. It's a really smart thing. I would try to explain it myself, but David does a great job. There's actually a 40-minute video in there. I've watched it. It's really enlightening. I would take a look at it. So props to David Kong. If I ever meet him, I want to give him a round of applause, or I don't know, buy him a Snickers bar or something, because he really explained things in a way that made sense to me. Anyway, we're going to go here and we're going to say, let's open up here. We'll go back to desktop. We'll go back to this export from Avid here, and we'll see the main sequence, min-mail. This is 112 megabytes. So it's about 1/10 the size of this 1 gigabyte version. Let's see how this looks. This must look like garbage. Actually looks pretty good. I mean, it's not perfect, but the original source video is not that great. Ends up adding a little darkness, there's a little bit of gamma curve on there that makes it look a little bit dark. But if we look at this versus this, I mean, they look, I don't know, I mean, you're looking on Zoom there, but yeah, they look very similar. This is a little bit, MP4 always adds a little bit of darkness there. It looks a little bit more sharper, or it looks a little bit more kind of high contrast. But it looks, you know, roughly, I don't know, I can still see everything. I can still make everything out. It looks like the same person. Good enough for the internet. Good enough for the internet, that's what I say. I mean, you're watching this, you know, captured off my screen, playing back on the internet, so you're going to deal with some compromise there. Anyway, but you have some of those issues there. Yeah, this looks still different. It looks a little darker on there. etc. So you have those controls there. Okay, so some other things we can do with export. There's actually several things we can do with export. We could have imported some color bars at the beginning and put some color bars at the beginning of this. We could make it like a school project where I put color bars. I pre-slated with some color bars in there. We could have loaded in some filler, right click, load filler, or we can do the good old add filler at start. If you click on the timeline, you could go to add filler. Let's see. Let me just find it. Add filler at start. Boom, and then add some filler at start. Added 1 minute, 10 seconds of filler. There we go. Or actually, 59:30 to. It added 30 seconds of filler. That's in a setting somewhere. I didn't need 30 seconds of filler, so undo that. We'll look. Command Shift equal. There's somewhere in here. I gotta find it in the timeline settings. Timeline settings. The filler duration. The start filler duration right there. Start filler duration is 30 seconds. Let's just make this like 5 seconds, 10 seconds. 10 seconds is fine. 10 seconds of filler. Start filler duration 10 seconds. Man, I'm glad I found that. Now we're going to here again. We're going to right click, add filler at start, and we're going to add in filler. Now, if you wanted color bars, I'll show you. If you wanted color bars, just because we have the time, we'll talk about it. If you wanted color bars, here's what you could do. You could go here to the beginning here before this, and you could just import a color bars file. There actually is one. If you go to File and you go to Import Media, or Source Browser, let's go here. Let's see if I can find this. This is always difficult to find. It's buried a little bit. We're going to go into the hard drive of the computer. We're going to go to Applications. Ready? You're going to challenge me here. See if I can do this. We're going to go here. We're going to do Avid Media Composer. So we're going to go to up here. We're going to go to Avid Media Composer, supporting files, test patterns. Whew, I found it. Test patterns. We're going to go to HD 1080, and then here we have SMPTE bars. This is some good looking SMPTE bars. We have SMPTE bars 1 and 2. We're going to SMPTE bars here. We're going to import these at maybe DNX HDSQ. We're going to say import to my drive, and we're going to import this SMPTE bars here. We're going to import these. I didn't actually check my settings. My settings are set to 30 seconds, which is perfect. Amazing, fantastic. And I have these color bars here, SMPTE bars. We'll just grab these color bars in the beginning. And you're going to say, why color bars? Why do we put color bars at the beginning? Well, we put color bars at the beginning because television networks like them, because they like to know what the colors are doing. It's a test pattern. It makes sure that, hey, if Wayne looked green over here, he looks green on purpose. It's not like something wrong with the equipment that they're playing this back on. So we put color bars at the beginning so that we know this thing opens up with color bars. Amazing. We could also go here and say, here's a trick. If you go to the audio tool, tools, audio tool, there's a little tool menu. So this is the audio tool that shows us all our audio levels here. Here's all our multi-tracks of audio here. If you go to here to the peak hold menu, in the peak hold menu, we can go here. It says create tone media. The last thing on the list here, create tone media. We can create tone media. What does that mean? Tone media level in decibels, -14, because that's what we've been working in. Tone media in frequency, 1,000 hertz, that's 1 kilohertz. And tone media in length, we can make this 30 seconds. 30 seconds of tone media. And the number of tracks, I always do 2 tracks. I don't know why. I guess I don't need to. It's going to come out stereo anyway, but we're going to create this tone media. Boom. 30 seconds of tone. You ready? Excited? Mm-hmm. Oh, that's loud. That's unpleasant. Oh, man. So let's go here. Let's turn these off. Let's actually grab, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to grab this clip. We're going to hit the T key. We're going to mark this, and we're going to turn the audio tracks on and turn the video off, and then overwrite here. Oops, insufficient source. Oh, did I move into it a little bit? Yeah, sorry. Overwrite, there we go. So now we have 30 seconds of bars and tone, 30 seconds of there, and then we have 10 seconds of black. Man, okay, let's mark our input at the beginning, end, mark an out point, and then make sure we tracked all the tracks. Boom, amazing. So we pre-slated this with bars and tone just in case we wanted to. We could set it up like there. Kind of a nice trick here. Excellent, amazing. We could even, well, we can do that later. So now we're going to here to file output, and we're going to output to export to file. Again, we have that there, and we can export this there in some of those options there. Other things we could do if we wanted to, we could make another video track. We could do Command Y, boom, make another video track. And we're going to go here on an upper video track, and we're going to say, let's go to effects. And inside here in effects, we're going to go to generator. In generator, we're going to throw in on video 3 a timecode burn-in. And so our timecode burn-in will go up here and be a timecode burn-in up on video 3. So we have video 3 showing up here. And now we're going to have this little timecode display that shows up there, that shows up the exact time of everything. We could go into the effects mode and say, let's take our time code, make it a little bit bigger. We'll go here to the appearance of the time code and increase that a little bigger. We could actually grab this little guy here and move this so we have the time code right there. We could make it kind of semi-transparent. Let's go to the text. The background here, just in case you want to see, the background looks like this. Whoops, we hopped out of effect mode. Turn effect mode back on. Background. Make it semi-trans. I like that a little bit better. Excellent. We can change the text font size, the line weight a little bit thicker. A little bit thicker there. So we have the time code burn. In case you wanted that for display for a, a review copy there, you could put something in there. And we could do that kind of thing. We could even throw in a text file in here. There's multiple displays here, but we could even throw a text file in here. And in the text file, we could open this up and say here in the text file, we could type in, do not show to Steve. You know how Steve is. Man, don't ever show anything to Steve. Steve's always difficult. Man, that Steve guy. We'll make this a little bit bigger. Make it a little bigger, and then we'll just make it kind of semi-transparent. Make the background a little bit more transparent. Reduce that. And we'll even reduce the text opacity down a little bit just so it's there in the background. So do not show to Steve. That way, in case Steve sees it, remember at the background there, just very lightly, right there. So we can have a total review copy. We can look at there. Do not show to Steve. It's there the whole time. If we want that, we can have that. If we don't want that, hey, turn those tracks off. And then boom, those tracks won't export because they're not on selected tracks. When we do file export, if they're not selected as the export tracks, and we don't have to worry about those. That's kind of cool. Let's leave video 2 on because we kind of do want video 2 to come out. So file, output, export to file. Let's talk about a couple more things in terms of exporting. Some other things we can do here with the export. Under options, you'll notice that we can export something. We can export a couple different things. We can export an MXF, which is a video file that is what's called a material exchange format, MXF OP1A. That is known by, that's what Avid uses normally when an Avid imports stuff and it transcodes stuff, it transcodes it to MXF. There's something in here called OpenEXR, which is another way to do this. Export is OpenEXR. Another thing we can do is we can export a ProTools session. So if you wanted to, we could export an actual ProTools session. Now, what the heck does that mean? Well, with a ProTools session, we're going to bring up a ProTools session. So now it's going to ask us a whole bunch of questions. Do we want to use marks? Yes. Do we want to use selected tracks? Maybe. Do we want to include the enable mask margins and the individual audio tracks? Okay. Sure. So what we're going to do, we're going to include all the video. So it's going to ask us about the video here. So it's going to say include all the video tracks in the sequence. Sure. Include all the audio tracks in the sequence. Sure. So this is if you were going to take this, you said, hey, I did some initial audio work. I had a big audio involved thing. I had some audio work that was initially done originally in Avid Media Composer, but now I want to bring it into Pro Tools and I want to do better stuff in Pro Tools. This is a thing you can do. You can do better stuff in Pro Tools and you can bring it to an actual audio engineer who knows a lot more about audio than I do. So here you're going to say video details. Okay, so what do we want to do with this video details? Okay, let's take a look. We want to export method, and under export method it says video mixdown. It's going to take Pro Tools. Doesn't care about the video as much. I mean, obviously the work of the audio engineer is to worry about the audio, but sometimes they like to watch the video along with it. So do we want to take all this video, all these clips of this video, and do we want to just mix it down? Sure, we can just make a single mix down of all this video, export it as one straight video. So it's just one playable video. I don't need to care about it there. The video mixdown, what do you want to transcode it to? So it's going to convert this video into one thing. We can transcode it to an MXF or an MOV. We know that Pro Tools works better as an MXF, and so we're going to choose an MXF. The compression, we're going to choose MXF, and we're going to choose DNX HD SQ, for example, or maybe even DNX HD LB, which is low bandwidth. This is kind of lesser, great quality of DNX, and we can mix it down there. So it's going to transcode it to MXF. It's going to there. The other options is link, don't export the media. This is, hey, I'm going to do the video work on my computer system as an editor. I'm going to make the video work happen. Simultaneously, I'm also going to do the Pro Tools work because I'm great at both. I can do great stuff in Pro Tools. I can do great stuff in video editing. I'm great in Avid. I'm great in Pro Tools. And so I have all the media. Why am I making a new copy of the media when I have all the media? And it will just link back to the media that I already have on my computer. Or say, for example, I gave my audio engineer all the video and all the audio on a hard drive with the footage, and he could just link to it. Cool, he could do that. The other options here are copy all media. So there's copy all media and consolidate media. Copy all media would copy pretty much everything. Consolidate would copy only the stuff that was needed for this sequence. So we could copy all the media just in case there was some other stuff we didn't use, everything in the project. In this case, we're going to consolidate the media, or we're going to do a video mixdown. In my case, I'm going to do a video mixdown, but you have those options there. And that's just for the video. Let's look at the audio details. So the audio details, export method, copy all media. Asked to exclude audio media from a previous sequence, include audio effects, sure. It asks us if we want to convert the sample rate, if we want to convert the bit depth, if we want to embed field recorder bin metadata in audio, sure. Convert non-waves to media to broadcast waves, excellent. We could do all that stuff. We could copy all that stuff and put it there. We are going to say, let's say consolidate all media, or maybe we'll just link to all the media. We have the media, or maybe we'll consolidate. Let's consolidate. So you can either do one of these three things. It depends on what you want to do. We're going to consolidate this thing here, and we're going to put it there. We're going to consolidate the media into the same place of the project. This is great. This is there. Fantastic. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. So we're going to go here, add audio mixdown. So we can do an audio mixdown in here. To a stereo mixdown, the 5.1 mixdown, but a stereo mixdown. We could convert some of those things. You know, there's lots of things. It offers handle length, whole bunch of questions there. You can set it up and you can save it as, okay, this is the way that we go to Pro Tools. So we're going to save this as go to Pro Tools. And we're going to save this as go to Pro Tools and have these settings there. So this is the go to Pro Tools way. Here, I'm going to make main sequence min-mal. Maybe we'll go here and we'll say, let's save this. Let's see what it does when we save this here. So it's going to save this. I forgot what we're doing with the audio at this point. Here's what we're doing the video. We're going to mix down the video to an MXF. We're going to consolidate the media here. Maybe we'll mix, yeah, we'll take a look at it. We're going to consolidate the media here. We're just going to keep the original media. Great. We can still link to it, I guess. No, we'll leave it alone. We'll save it. We'll say here, let's save all this. It says main sequence min-mal, exclude audio media reference from sequence. And so we're going to say none. We want to keep all this media here. And we're going to say okay. And there, it's going to create a video mixdown. So here it is creating a video mixdown. Let's look at what it's doing over here on the other end of this. We're going to go here and say, let's look at desktop, go back to my export from Avid folder. And now it's making all these Avid media files for this MXF. It made this, all these things, and this is all the audio. Now put it all in the same bin. What I probably should have done, rookie mistake is I probably should have taken all this audio here and put it into a new folder here. But now inside of here, inside of this, I want to just show this to you. Inside of here in desktop, I have in my export from Avid, I have this folder right here, Avid Media Files, MXF1, and I have a main sequence min-mal PTX. This is a tiny little file. This is a Pro Tools session, which means if I double click this and open a Pro Tools, I would open a Pro Tools and show you this inside of Pro Tools and show you that this would be broken out as a sequence, and I would see all the audio and all the video at some point. Maybe I'll do that a little bit later because I do want to move on to some couple other things and show you some other things, but maybe as an extra little bonus, I'll show you how this looks inside of here. So let's hop away from there. I want to show you one other thing that we can do, and we can go here and go to File, Output, Export to File. I really should make a shortcut for that. Let's do that right now. Let's just do that. Just for amusement's sake, we're going to go to Tools. We're going to go to, let's see, Keyboard. We're going to go to Command-Shift-Equal. Little review. We're going to go Keyboard here, and here's my keyboard. Let's find a key that I don't like, a key that I don't really care about. And a key that's not valuable to me. Let's see, the semicolon key. So the semicolon key is mouse shuttle, which I don't really care for. I don't know why the semicolon key seems like a really quick way to do this. Could I make it shift semicolon? Shift semicolon. Shift, somebody remember that. Shift semicolon. I'm going to go here to the Tools, Command Palette, and I'm going to use Command Palette, Menu to Button, Reassignment. And in here, I'm going to click on this. I'm going to go to File, Output, Export to File. And now export to file is now on Command semicolon. That makes sense, right? Because Command semicolon or Shift semicolon. See, I forgot already. Man, I'm trying to pretend like that makes sense. It doesn't really make sense. It was a key that I just thought about. I'm going to make a new bin. We're going to go to new bin. New bin. I'm going to call this export for color because we're going to work with the idea of putting this into color correction. Now I know you're going to say, but Chad, we can do color correction inside of Avid. Why do we need to go to a separate program to do color correction? I know it doesn't make any sense, but you know what? Some people like to work in a program like Davinci Resolve to do their color correction. And by some people, I really mean, most of the public and all of Hollywood. So, we're stuck with it. We're stuck with Davinci Resolve. Now, I will be clear, I'm not a Davinci Resolve person, but I don't know much about it. I do work with a little bit, but I'm not great at it, so it's going to be a little bit messy. We're going to hit Command D, and I'm going to make a new sequence. We're going to call this sequence. So I just duplicated the sequence, Command D, and we're going to call this main sequence for color guy, the color person. There we go. And I'm going to put this into a new bin. I made a new bin here called export for color. I'm just putting this in a new bin just to have it here. And we're going to say, let's export this. We're going to double click this and open this up. So now it's main sequence export for color person. I guess we should call it for color correction person. For Davinci person, for Davinci. For Leonardo da Vinci person. So cool. We have it there. We're going to go to File, Output, Export to File. Oh, wait. Silly, I can just hit Shift semicolon, the most useful key in the world that makes all the sense in the world. So we're going to export this. We're going to export this as a new option, not in Go to Pro Tools, but we're going to go here to AAF. And in the AAF thing, we're going to look at the AAF controls here. So we'll look at some of the things here. We could say, hey, we don't want to export some of the empty bars here. So let's cancel out of here for a second. Let's cancel out of here. And let's mark an endpoint at the beginning. Let's just say mark an endpoint here. Great. So we'll only grab this stuff from here over. So again, Shift semicolon, boom. And we're going to say, in here, in the sequences control, let's use marks. Let's just use the marks. So we don't need to export the color bars. We don't want the color bars. Or maybe the color corrections want the color bars. I don't know. Oh man, some difficult questions. You should ask an actual colorist. We're going to export an AAF. We're going to use marks. We're going to use the AAF edit protocol. That makes sense. Pro Tools 1012. We're not going to Pro Tools, so we don't have to worry about it. We're going to use the selected tracks and use the marks and include inactive audio tracks there. Do we want to export the audio? I don't think we really need to. Let's ignore it. Let's ignore exporting the audio so we just have less to worry about. The video information, because they only really care about the video information unless they really want to listen to it, unless they're a friend of yours, this Davinci Resolve colorist. Export method, I'm going to pick link to don't export media. That's going to keep the media, my media there. I think that's a better way to go. We don't need to render. We don't need to transcode. We don't need anything. And the media destination is going to be, well, it's going to be on the drive because we're just linking to it. So we're just grabbing the stuff that's already on, I don't know where this is. It's on my SSD drive here, probably somewhere in here is the media. So if we went to Avid media files here, somewhere in here, I think in this folder is all the media here for this. So all the media is here, and we're just going to link to it and just reference it there. This is going to create a new thing, and we're going to say save, and we're going to save, and then automatically it's going to say, hey, let's say main sequence for Davinci. I'm going to put this into a separate folder instead of export for Avid. We're going to say export for color. And we can look at this as an export for color here and have this here, boom. And we're going to export to the color and say save. Cool. And I want to show you two options in a second. So this is it makes a duplicate of the sequence. I wish it didn't, but it does. It makes a duplicate of the sequence. So here's the duplicate main sequence for Davinci person exported 01. That's really a lot of words right there. Anyway, let's open up Davinci Resolve. Oh boy, we're going to open up another program. We're not going to go deep into Davinci Resolve. And why is that? Because I'm not great at Davinci Resolve. We're going to make a new project. And here in new project, I'm going to call this MMIC edit for color or something. I don't know, whatever the Davinci person is going to call it. We're going to call it MMIC there. And then in here's Davinci Resolve. Oh man, a whole other program. Don't worry about it. I just want to show it to you just to show you the idea of it. File, import. We're not going to import media. We're not going to import a bin. We can import a bin if we want to. We want to just grab in the raw clips. We could import a bin in, which is crazy. But we want to import a timeline. And in here, in the import timeline settings, there's different settings. Let's go to export for color. And in here, it says main sequence, Davinci Resolve, person. There it is, all this thing. And this is called an advanced authoring format. That's the AAF. I didn't mention that before. The advanced authoring format. Sometimes I call it the Avid authoring format because I like calling it the Avid authoring format. It makes me feel better. But it's actually called the advanced authoring format. And it says I can bring in an AAF, I can bring in EDL, and a decision list, and XML from Final Cut Pro or any of these other formats. I don't even know what a DRT is. Crazy. I can bring in all these other different options here, but let's say open. We're going to say open. We're going to bring this in and we're going to import there. It's going to bring up this dialog box. This dialog box is going to ask us a bunch of questions. What do you want to do? We're going to bring in main sequence. We're going to start this time code at 1 hour where it started. Automatically set project settings. That sounds good. All these things sound pretty good unless you want to change something, make a different resolution or something. Mix frame rate format as resolve format. I don't know. Sure. Let's say okay. I'm going to say okay, and it's going to open this up, and then boom. All this sequence is going to build there. Now, this is a cut screen. We can go to an edit screen here and see it in the edit screen. And here's the edit screen that we can watch and play this back here. But more importantly, we can go into the color screen. And inside here, we can do all the color correction on all these clips. Click on each of these clips and look at the colors and look at the curves and all the other things. And we can do all of our color correction there. So that is just, and again, I don't want to get into this like crazy, but I just want to show you that we could simply enough do this in Davinci Resolve and do export there. But we're going to export an AAF for Davinci Resolve. So let's close out of here. I'm going to hit quit, and I'm going to quit out of here. And we're going to go back into Avid here, and we're going to do this again. We're going to export this sequence again. This is the main sequence here. So we'll go back to the main sequence here. And again, the exporter just gave us this with the color bars. Let's do it with the color bars this time. I'm going to grab with the color bars here. The other option we could do is we can go here to File, Output, Export to File, and now we're going to change our settings. Now, weirdly, foolishly, we set our go to Pro Tools to be an AAF, which is totally not the way we should do. So we need to fix a whole bunch of settings because I was acting quickly. I was trying to get all this done, and I did too much. This should be a Pro Tools session. It should be a Pro Tools session just the way we did it with mix down, audio, cool. Into the audio details, we're going to do consolidate media. Great, awesome, cool. And we're going to save that. Cool, excellent. We are going to go here to Untitled, and we're going to go in Untitled and you'll say in our options, we're going to do AAF. We're going to do an AAF, except in this case, what we're going to do, just as a different idea, is instead of doing a link to, we could do a link to, and that's probably the better way to go. But just for example, we are going to say, make a video mixdown. And we're going to make a video mixdown. I just want to show this to you, a video mixdown with edits, video mixdown with video edits. This is kind of cool. So we're going to put this into a separate folder here. We're going to go into the folder. Let's go into folder and let's choose a folder here. Let's select a folder. We'll go into desktop, export from Avid, export for color, and inside here we're going to put this there. Now we already have one of these here. Actually, we're going to change the name of this. Let's just take this. We'll cancel out of here for a second. We're going to call this main sequence for Davinci person, or we're going to call this just main Davinci mixdown. So just as an idea, we could do it a main Davinci mixdown. We are going to take this and go again, File, Output, Export to File. We're going to go into the Untitled options, choose AAF, and then instead of doing a video, well, we're going to do a video mixdown here. We don't really, well, we'll include the audio details. We'll include the audio details and we'll do a video. We'll copy all the media as well. And we'll copy all the media, or just consolidate the media. Copy would take everything. We only need the parts of it that we want. And so we're going to copy it here. For video drive, we're going to choose in the folder. And again, we're going to choose the folder to be the desktop, export from Avid, export for color. A lot of thoughts here. Cool. And then the audio, we're also going to put into a folder and say, you can say use same folder as AF, which is going to be in the same folder as AF, which is going to be where it's going to be anyway. So we can just do that for both of them. That's much easier. Asks a bunch of questions about the audio, add audio mixdown, convert audio sample rate. No, we don't want to do that. Ask some questions about the video. I think this is good. We want to say use marks, use selected tracks, use everything. Cool. Let's say save. I'm going to save this as export for color, which is what we should have done the first time, but I was being silly. I understand. Cool. And so we're going to say export for color, and we're going to go in here and say, let's see if this works. Man, so many different options. So many different options, so much stuff to remember. I have to remind myself how to do this every single time. Trust me, if this is confusing, if this is overwhelming, I just want to show you that this is another way you can export stuff as an AF. Now, what this is going to do, it's going to create a video mixdown. It's going to take all of this video and turn it into one thing, but it's actually going to memorize the edits in there. The AAF will actually memorize all the edits that are in there, so it'll sort of work there. Let's just wait a couple seconds. In the meantime, I should open up Davinci, because Davinci takes a second or two to open up. And it made all those audio files. Look at that. It made all these copies of all these audio files. Let's make a new project. We'll call this MMIC version 2. Cool, just so we can start fresh here. Let's see if this works. File, import a timeline, Command-Shift-I. You guys all knew that, right? I didn't know that. Anyway, we're going to go here into Avid Davinci Mixdown, and here we're going to bring that in, say open. It's going to ask us the same questions. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go for it. Here we're going to say okay, and it's going to come in there. Now this came in sort of looking the same way, except instead of being separate video files, this is a mix down of the video. So it brought them in here as a mix down of the video here. We'll go to the edit window. Sometimes this little, when we switch to the edit window, it takes a second or two to load up. It's loading all these files and transferring those files. So it did a mix down of all these videos. That's another way. The difference here with the mix down here, just to show you while this is loading, the difference is here with the mix down, we now have a copy of all these things inside of here. So inside of here, now where were we? Export for Avid, export for color. We now have a copy of all the video files. So now we made a copy of all the video files here. This is all the audio files and the video mixdown. So this is the mixdown file, 1.62 gigabytes, and this is all the audio files. We now have copies of all these as a separate place. So this is if you weren't doing it yourself or you were sending it off to somebody else, you could do a video mixdown for somebody else. And again, make all the color adjustments. And this would be argumentatively if you were finishing inside of Davinci. So you said, hey, I don't want to go back to Avid. I don't want a round trip. I just want to go back out and I want to give it to somebody separately and give them a copy of everything there. So that's, that's a thing you can do. Anyway, I think that's part of what we're going to cover. I do want to go back and show you, once I get to my Pro Tools system, I'm going to kind of edit this video and show you the Pro Tools export, because I still do have the Pro Tools export here. And I do want to show you loading up into Pro Tools. So that's the last thing we're going to do. If you're not interested, I guess you can stop now. But, we're going to show you that. And we'll, make it a full day. I'm going to quit out of here. Cool. And we'll show you that idea of exporting out to Pro Tools as just one final thing. I'm trying to give you a little bit of everything. Okay, so as a last and final thing, I did want to show you the Pro Tools session that we exported out. We did the trouble of exporting it, and we made it here, this main sequence minmail.pdx. We made the Avid media files here, and here's the Avid media files that we consolidated. Here's all the audio files, and then we made a video mix down. We don't really need the video as much, but we do need the audio. So I just want to show it to you inside of here. This would be the sequence. I felt like it would be a kind of a cheat to show you that we could export a PDX and not show you what happens when we open the PDX. So we're going to double click the PDX. We're just going to open up Pro Tools. And when Pro Tools opens, it finds all the files and it builds this whole sequence. So we can look in here in Pro Tools. We can see that it creates this video window here. Again, this is not a Pro Tools lesson, nor was it a Davinci lesson, but nonetheless, we have this here. We have the sequence. We probably didn't need the color bars, but maybe it would be good to have a reference. It created a couple tracks, a rendered video tracks, an audio, unrendered tracks, and rendered only. And so we have this here, and then we have the audio files right here. We can look at these in several different modes here, overview or volume, and see each of these as an idea here. So this is the audio. It's linked here, and we have this in terms of there. And now we can go and we can do actual audio adjustments to these segments here on the timeline, or do any kind of keyframing that we wanted to, and really do our audio adjustments here. If we did any kind of keyframing inside of Avid, this will transfer over. So any kind of audio adjustments we made will transfer over, but this will play back and it will be here.
Careers
we'll play back in the system
and information about careers that they might be interested in.
So I just want to show you can do that as an idea to play back this
information and giving them
to play back this video and audio. It is a function that exists. And so if you're working with Pro Tools, or you're working with the Pro Tools audio engineer, you can do your Pro Tools stuff in here. So we can save this and we'll quit it here. Anyway, that's going to be that for the lesson. I really felt like I wanted to show you that other extra thing in there. Even the markers came over. Anyway, so take a look at it, enjoy it, and have fun finally exporting your stuff now that we've gone through all these lessons. This is lesson 19. Whew. Anyway, keep editing, keep making stuff. I don't know, we'll watch some other tutorials, and maybe in the future I'll do a Pro Tools tutorial, or God forbid, a Davinci Resolve tutorial, which I'll have to learn eventually. All right, that's it for today. Thanks.